Welcome to Raising Financially Fit Families with Joline Godfrey podcast. I'm your podcast producer, RJ Malik. Joline, so good to see you. How are you?
I'm terrific. I'm delighted to be here again, RJ.
It's good to have you back. I see you have a guest. So I'm going to get out of the way. You can introduce your guest and tell us what the both of you will be talking about on this podcast.
Excellent. Well, I'm particularly excited today because I'm here with Christi Rae, who I think of as my Canadian colleague who is creating something in our neighbor state that I think is quite special, but very much a cousin to what I'm doing here in the United States. And uh, Christi, you've started the Great Canadian Piggybank, and I want to begin. I'm going to back you into telling your own story, but I wonder if you would start by talking about what in the Canadian culture, what in your life made you think this was an important thing to begin right now? What prompted it and what's it look like today? What is the Canadian Piggy Bank?
Absolutely. So the Canadian Piggy Bank is a podcast. It's a very topic-based podcast for parents' anxieties about talking about money with their kids. It's very Canadian focused. So our banking systems, our tax systems are much different than the States. There's a lot of, you guys have 10 times the population of us, so it makes sense, but there's a lot of information online, but it talks about 401ks and IRA Roths, and we don't have those. And we have a lot different systems. So this is very Canadian focused, but it deals with topics that all parents deal with, all anxieties. So anyone can listen to it everywhere, but I will talk about RESPs or RRSPs or TFSAs, many, many different tax breaks that Canadians get versus Americans.
It's huge. I'm curious, what are the frequently asked questions you get? What are the top 3 or 4 questions that come to you?
You know what? It's less about it being Canadian focused, and it's just parental worries. Like everything that I get questions about, it all comes down to the underlying worry of every parent. Is my kid going to be okay in the future? And that's a huge topic. And it comes in all the different forms of I didn't know enough about finance to help guide them. Will they ever have a job in the future, given that AI is impacting the world? Will they ever be able to afford a house in Canada, which is a really big topic in Canada? And it's just timeless, right? Like your parents had it, my parents had it, grandparents had it. Are our kids going to be okay in the future that we don't know enough about? And that's what it all comes down to, which is great because it all comes from love, right?
It all comes from love, but I feel as though when I listen to you and I think you're channeling the anxiety of a country at some level,
Absolutely.
which, is a lot to carry on one's shoulders. And I feel it in a different way here, of course, because you're right. These are both universal questions and they're mythic on some level. Forever, people have worried about their children.
Yeah.
And so I guess the question is, what is it you can do in the Canadian piggy bank, and I'm certainly trying to do in my company at Bounce, that gives families some reassurance that it's going to be okay? What do you think we do, or what can the Canadian piggy bank offer that gives families some reassurance? Or is that even something you're trying to do?
No, absolutely. And something that your audience doesn't know is you were a huge inspiration for me to start this podcast. I've been reading your How to Raise Financially Fit Kids since my 13-year-old daughter was born. You and I have talked about this. It's been unbelievable. And what your book did and what I want my podcast to do is the same thing. I just want to give them the language and the framework to just have better conversations about money and just not have that taboo about money that a lot of people still have and that people inherited from their own parents. So, and it's just giving them the permission to admit that they don't know everything. Like, I think that's a big thing. Parents are so scared about admitting to their kids that they don't know anything or know much about finances. And so they don't feel confident to teach their kids. Like, they're not financial analysts. They're not financial advisors. So just what's a simple framework to give them the confidence to talk to their kids. And I think you do it really well. That's what your book helped me through the early ages of my kids.
Well, starting out as a social worker rather than an accountant was a very different starting place, and I think it allowed me to look at financial anxiety, if you will, in a different way, but you too have had an unlikely path, and I wonder if you would talk about I think your path began in gaming, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
How did you make that journey, and what brought you to from gaming to the piggy bank?
Well, I've been helping lead large franchises like Skate and Fortnite and Gears of War, which some people remember, some and others won't. And so there's two main things that I would say I learned. Well, I mean, I learned a lot in gaming, but two main things that I've really stuck out for me that's carried me through life is just how to find the fun in something. I've always been the project manager, always the director of production or the executive producer in a lot of the game franchises I've led. And I want everything on schedule. I want everything on budget. But at the end of the day, it has to be fun. If the game's not fun, no one's going to play it. And how do you schedule finding the fun? And the other one is how do you create a community from it? And so I think those are the two things that have sort of resonated with me throughout my life. And it's something even when I was coming into the podcast, it was okay, I need to learn how to find the fun of the podcast. Why are people going to listen? What's the hook? What's the excitement over it? And then from it, just reaching out to people like yourself and the community and just asking for advice and would you come on my podcast? And I've just been overwhelmed by how much people have said yes and how excited people are about it. And so if you find that common thread of interest, I find people just come to it, especially when you're passionate about it. And that's what I find with the podcast. I'm not going to get everything right, but I'm okay failing. I've learned with gaming, you fail again and again and again and again, and you just learn from those failures. And so, but then every single time, any team I've been part of, any franchise I've been part of, the communities is just phenomenal, and just the human connection has been incredible.
So interesting. I was going to say, I zero in on this notion of fun and community. I think we're hungry for community. And partly that did come out of, I think, COVID and an awareness that we can't take
Yep.
community for granted. And we're so atomized or balkanized or something these days that it's hard to get community. But those of us who are intentional about building community, I think, you can learn anything together, whether it's finance or, um, you know, about the stars or about seeds, which we're going to get to in the not so distant future. But I think learning how to do community again is so critical. And I'm wondering how that's playing out in the Canadian Piggy Bank for you. Are you finding people making community through this at all?
Absolutely. So, I mean, so I've just launched about a month ago for this, and just already, just even on Instagram, I've got content creators reaching out to me saying, "This is amazing. I'm trying to do the same thing." Yourself, you've reached out a few times to be like, "How can we collaborate on things?" And I just love the passion that's coming out of it. So it's the content creators, and then I've just got parents, just friends and family text. I just had one today text me being like, "That was a really great episode. I really enjoyed that." There was a content creator reached out to me about your interview that she had, and she asked, what about the book? What, like, when did it start? I want to buy it." And so it's just the people are just coming together to help each other, and I'm finding it incredible.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. If you read the headlines on papers in any country these days, I suppose you could get pretty discouraged, but I'm not at all discouraged. I get up in the morning and I'm feeling very gung ho about the world.
Agreed.
And that's what I hear from you as well.
Yes, I mean, during COVID really drove it home for me. I'm an introvert. When COVID first started, I was like, "Oh, I could just stay by I can just hang out with my family all by myself." And then after a couple months, I was like, Oh, I need people. Oh, I didn't realize this about myself. Oh, I really need people. And then that's when I really became intentional about creating communities and making sure that my local community was doing okay, the restaurants around us were doing okay, the cafes, and just became really intentional about making sure people were okay, especially during COVID. I think a lot of people had that realization, especially us introverts.
Yep. No, I think that's exactly right. Oh, I'm curious, in some ways, you're, I think, prone to looking towards the future in a slightly different way than I am. And so I wanted to ask for a minute about your perspective on AI. I have this assumption that is probably wrong, that coming out of the world of gaming, you're much more comfortable with how things are evolving around AI than perhaps me or some of our listeners here today are. Can you talk about your own view of where we're going and how this all plays in together?
That's a very big question.
But I haven't interviewed anybody else who I've been able to throw this one at, so take a shot at it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the key for me is balance, right? Like I did computer science in university. I have been in video games for 25 years. I have been in technology and I have seen technology change. I was in third year computer science and the first browser came out. So I was doing computer science before the internet existed. So that just dated me right there. So I saw how the internet changed the world and I saw how it changed it for good. I know globalization isn't great in some aspects, but it's also amazing. Like think about just even COVID, the way that we were able to interconnect around the world and, just share solutions with each other. Like that was technology at its best, I felt. And so I do feel the same about AI. Now, I get teased by my friends because I'm a tech optimist. I always have been. I'm the early adopter. I'm in there. I'm excited about it. I'm learning about AI. I'm learning about what it's doing, but I'm also I'm not naive about it. Like there's going to be a lot of struggles. We do need to put some guardrails on it. Just because AI can take away jobs doesn't mean it should. And so it's having that balance and understanding of what makes sense for us and how do we use technology for our own good, right? But then I also stay really grounded as well because I've been in technology my whole life. I've been excited by it. I've seen the good that it can do. But then I also get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed by the news. I get overwhelmed by being in front of my computer too long. And so I will exclusively read paper books. I do not read an e reader. I want a magazine. I want a paper book. I'm a big rock climber. I get outside rock climbing and skiing and running. I garden, I'm with the family. And so it's just like getting out and touching grass and touching ground and just making sure that I'm balanced. And I learned that throughout gaming as well. People get burnt out unbelievably in gaming because you can just work so hard to make the game and it's so big that you have to, as I'd always say to teams, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to take care of yourself. You have to go easy. And it's the same thing with technology. I mean, you can just get completely overwhelmed by AI, but I also love it. I love it to do all my searching for me. I get it to do tasks for me. I get it to do my Instagram posts for me. It's things that I'm like, man, I'm not really that interested in doing some of these things. And so it just does it for me.
Wow, that is so helpful. But you also touch on something that I think we need to be more explicit about too, and that is connection with nature.
Absolutely.
So here we are talking about financial education, and suddenly we're talking about nature. I had somebody not too long ago say to me, um, well, if I want my kid to grow up to be frugal and thoughtful, does that mean I can't stay in nice hotels any longer? And I remember saying, no, you can stay in really nice hotels. But while you're there, you should go take a really long hike, and it should be a hard hike. And when the kid is out there saying, this is too hard, I don't want you to put them in a cab and send them back to the hotel. I want you to help them do that hard hike
Yep.
because there's something about nature that I think does, um, develop our capacity, develop the skills we need to be financially fluent, and yet not go down a rabbit hole of that's all there is in life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I live in Vancouver, so we're very much in the nature out here, and we do something called tree bathing, which sounds ridiculous. I believe it comes from the Japanese, and there's a word for it. And it's just you can feel it. You walk out into the trees, into the old growth forests, and you just smell oxygen. It's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal feeling when you're done too.
Yeah, no, I think people look at the work you and I are doing and they think money.
Yeah.
And what's different about, and I think one of the reasons I'm drawn to what you're doing and really love it is that I've always said financial education isn't just about the money. It is about your whole life and your values and what you care about. And I hear that in your work as well in such a serious way. And one of the things I hope people take away from this small podcast today is you and I both feel strongly that financial fluency is important. It is not the end all of life.
I agree, and I think that that's something that I realized. I thought I was doing money lessons, and I was just setting up a framework for parents to figure things out. When I read your book, I was like, "Oh, tick! I'm going to go do this at age 5. At age 8, I'm going to do these things. Tick, tick, tick." But what I realize, and the more I talk to people like yourself, and I talk to others, it is so grounded in emotion
Yeah.
to an extent I didn't even realize. Like it comes from what your parents taught you. It taught the shame that came from that. Maybe one of your parents grew up really poor and that carried through their whole life and that got passed on to you. And it is just, and when I took time to stop and think about it and I looked back, I was shocked by how many things actually shaped my money lessons, and it's the emotions of it. And it's pretty phenomenal, especially when two partners come together and they have to combine their finances and then teach their kids about it, and they come back from very different backgrounds. That astonished me. And so I'm realizing I'm not teaching parents about finances or teaching them how to give the language. It's how do you teach, and you say it all the time, I love it, is just how do you teach them the family values? How do you teach them delayed gratifications? Those are the lessons that you're teaching them. It's not about, in Canada, TFSAs and RESPs, and it's about understanding like they're just basic human habits of how they're going to grow up resilient. And it's going to apply to anything and everything, not just money.
And the kids who learn those lessons are curious enough and persistent enough. They're going to learn those things. I don't have to sit down and give them the lesson because they are on their own going to insist on that knowledge.
Yeah.
And the earlier you start, the earlier they have, the longer their runway and the easier it is for them. So it's not that I'm not, or that either of us are saying it's not important to balance your books and learn to save and all of those things.
Absolutely.
But kids who really get it internally are internally driven as opposed to having to be, driven by their parents from outside. It's another whole thing entirely.
Yeah, I agreed.
Very interesting. Well, time goes so damn fast on these podcasts. It makes me crazy. But I really don't want to leave without talking about seeds because, seeds are their own kind of economics class in a way. And I had no idea the ambition of what you have taken on. And I want you to talk a little bit more with me about how you morphed, or did you morph? What are the connections between the piggy bank and your passion around seeds?
So I had been in games. Gaming took a big downturn in the last couple years. There's been a lot of layoffs, and I just wasn't feeling great about the world. I mean, the world it is hard. It has been hard. I just felt like it was getting harder for some reason. And maybe my resiliency was starting to get eroded. And I just decided, okay, What is something I can do that's going to just make me happy and make people around me happy? And so I started up this, it's called a seed library, where it's much like a book library, but there's seeds out there for gardening. And I have one called East Van Seeds, and it's a seed library just outside. And I got a grant from the city to where they were promoting community. And so you got a grant. I wrote to a whole bunch of Canadian seed companies around Canada, and they gave me boxes and boxes of free seeds to put out there. And it was something, and honestly, it came because I just felt bad. I felt it was very selfish. It was very like, I feel bad right now, and I want to do something good to make myself feel better. And that's how it started, which sounds very selfish when I say it out loud. But the amount of community it's created, I've joined online with Instagram. There's all these other seed libraries around Vancouver, around Canada. We have threads, multiple threads, just giving each other advice on what to do and not to do. And just the local community. I've had numerous handwritten letters saying, thank you so much for this. This brings me so much joy. I love seeing the 20-year-old males and females coming and just asking questions and getting free seeds, and they get free food out of it, right? Like, I just find it's been incredible. I like the number of times I've had people stop and chat with me and just say how incredible it's been for the community is I don't know. It gives me so much more than I ever expected, even though it started in a very selfish place.
Well, it is what we talk about in terms of modeling behavior for kids.
Yeah.
When they watch parents who start something out of nothing and create something just because they cared about it, that is the kind of model you just can't pay for. It's just real.
Yeah.
And I have to say, having looked at your website and your Instagram about seeds, is like, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah. A lot of people say that they come to my Instagram and just go, it's just when things are hard in the world, it's nice just coming and looking at your seeds and your plants. It's just so calming. And that's what it's meant to be. Because that's when I start getting overwhelmed. I've got an Instagram, the account East Van Seeds. And I just go to it because it's only gardeners that are in there. And so it just gives me loveliness of like, everyone's just growing. It's just nice.
Everyone is just growing. I think that's such a great way to put it. We have a little problem with growth right now here in the United States, but hopefully that's just a bump and we'll get
Yeah.
over it. When we close out and RJ says to you, what's your contact information, Christi? I want to make sure you give the contact to the seed information as well.
Awesome.
Hopefully we can do this again. I love talking to you, and obviously we're going to find other things to do together.
Absolutely.
But RJ, I see you're here, so I guess it's time for us to wrap this thing up.
I don't want to cut you off too early, but yeah, contact information. So as Joline was saying, give all your contact information, Christi.
Well, the podcast is the Great Canadian Piggybank, so you can look that up. I have a website, plus I have an Instagram site and a Facebook site. I'm on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so it's the Great Canadian Piggybank. And then I've got my email address on there as well, so people can reach out, or they can reach out through the website as well quite easily. Do you want me to just leave it focused on the podcast?
No, I want you to share the seed information because other people are going to be delighted by that.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's called East Van Seeds. So I live in Vancouver. I live in East Vancouver. And it's called East Van Seeds. I have an Instagram site. I also have a website as well. I'm in the gardening is done by zones. So everybody who is in zone 8B, which is what Vancouver's in, doesn't matter where you are in the world, zone 8B, everybody has the same weather, has the same seasons. And so it depends on your zone. So that's East Van Seeds. And again, you can contact me all through that. And it's a lovely corner in the world.
That sounds good. Now, Joline, your contact information.
My email is Joline at bounce-10.com. And you can visit my website at www.bounce-10.com. And I hope you'll come make comments and chat with me.
Sounds good. And Christi and Joline, thank you so much. It was a fascinating conversation to eavesdrop on, and we're looking forward to your next podcast, Joline. And thank you for listening to today's Raising Financially Fit Families with Joline Godfrey podcast. Please like, follow, and share this podcast with friends and family. And if possible, rate this podcast and leave a review, because this actually helps others find the show. Until our next podcast, for Joline Godfrey, I'm RJ Malik.